Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sporting the Holiday Red here for our holiday edition of, in case you missed it, the last one for this unit. Been a long unit. We've been working on this since well before Thanksgiving. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's roll. We're on page 5, ladies and gentlemen. Try and get this done as quickly as I can for you. I know you got precious time. Time and money. Got my money on my mind, or something like that. That's the line. I messed it up, I think. Okay. Stop singing. All right, so starting on the page, we're talking about the rise of American industry. After the Civil War, the United States is going to become this booming second industrial revolution economy. We are going to really focus around the production of huge railroad tracks, oil, steel, electricity, building blocks of society. A lot of those things are called capital goods. Capital goods are goods used in order to make some other product. So as opposed to a consumer good, like, for instance, this bottle of water, which I'm not going to use to do anything, except drink, okay? A capital good is going to be something like a furnace or an oven or, let's say, for instance, a huge factory that I use to make useful other items. Horizontal integration is a business strategy where you try to buy out all of the other people in your particular field. Like, for instance, if I'm Starbucks, that's horizontal integration. Because if someone says, oh my God, do you want to go get a cup of coffee? What they're saying is, let's go to Starbucks. They're not saying, let's go to one of the many different establishments that sell coffee. Because they don't. Starbucks has wonderful horizontal integration. They've managed to make people believe that when you drink coffee, it has to come out of a cup that says Starbucks on it. Andrew Carnegie is really the early pioneer of this in American society. Though born to immigrant parents and not really that wealthy when he arrived, Carnegie managed to corner the steel industry in the United States in order to, at one point, be worth about $300 billion. Billion! That kind of money. Okay. After him, we have vertical integration. Vertical integration is a similar strategy, but instead of replacing everyone in the market, you're assuring that you produce and take care of every particular step in the production of a good. Like, for instance, McDonald's. We talked about that. They raise their own chickens, or at least what appear to be chickens. They take that meat, they put it into a McDonald's plant, they then bring it to a McDonald's store on a McDonald's truck, and they sell it there. Everything that they make is part of their production. The example that we used here was Gustavus Swift, who pioneered the use of refrigerated cars to haul cattle from the stockyards way out in Kansas all the way to the slumber houses, I just called them. That's like a bad slip. Slaughterhouses. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to keep going now. Slaughterhouses in Chicago, and then from there on his trucks and his railway cars to further butcher shops that he owned. Vertical integration. Control every stop and eliminate the middleman. We talk about John Rockefeller. Rockefeller is a master of both of these things. He controls the U.S. oil supply during the late 19th century and early 20th century to the point where he has 90% of the oil in America. Pretty amazing. Trusts. A trust is a combination of a variety of different businesses in different fields that then work together. Trusts can be good if the companies work together to try and provide cheap products for everyone around the country. Good thing. A trust can also be bad. If a trust somehow gets such a control of the market that no one else can compete with it, that might be predatory. In other words, if you control it so tightly that nobody else can contribute or challenge your monopoly, that's bad, right? For instance, if Starbucks gets to the point where no one else in the country sells any coffee, even in the store, where you have to go to Starbucks, that could be predatory. That's not good. Mass marketing, we're going to sell to everybody. Most specifically, you need to know that we're selling to rural housewives, chic women living out in Kansas who want the same drapes and the same couch as those fancy chicks who live in New York. Yeah. All right, the Southern economy. What's new in the South? Well, unfortunately, the Southern economy isn't diversifying a great deal. We use a lot of the same industries. Cotton's still the #1 industry. We're going to see a resurgence for tobacco and also some iron and some lumber industry. But the Southern economy is still limited because, honestly, they're not doing anything new. They're not trying to improve the quality of the life of the workers. They're not educating them. They're not giving them a better life in any way. And unfortunately, that means that the Southern economy is always going to lag behind. If there's a lot of low-wage earners, which they have, that means that you never really push to introduce, for instance, efficient factories, because that's a huge upfront cost as compared to a low-wage earner cost. that means that your society never really sophisticates as much as it can. Page number 6, talking about the first two labor unions. Two very, very different organizations. On our left, the Knights of Labor, founded by Grand Master Worker Terence Powderly. Represent! Powderly created a union that was intended to challenge the idea that the worker should be a slave to the machine. He thought that in the long run, people would share all of the wealth created by industrial society in order to create a better society. Are you talking about socialism, Holliday? Was he a socialist? He was a socialist? He is really a socialist. The idea we're working with here is the idea that we're sharing wealth among all of the people. One of the reasons that the Knights of Labor is so limited in its success is because the goal is across generations. Powderly wanted to change the way human beings thought about wealth. Instead of believing that the owner should get the majority of the wealth because, well, they own it, Powderly wanted, I beg your pardon, to move to a situation where we began to believe that wealth should be spread around everyone who had a contributing role in making a product, not the way Americans saw it. One of the early members of the Knights of Labor is a guy named Samuel Gompers. Gompers is the founding father of the the American Federation of Labor. The AFL breaks off of the Knights of Labor to pursue what Gompers is going to call pure and simple unionism, bread and butter issues, higher pay, less hours, better conditions. Issues that we can solve today, not in 50 years when we change the way people see wealth. Today, today, today. Okay? So when we talk about Gompers in the AFL, we're talking about using strikes, using violence in that sense, in order to try and assure a better situation right now, not a long way down the road. That's the difference. Looking at these three labor disputes at the bottom, and remember I said in class, the dominant theme is this. The government is going to support not the worker, but the business owner. Generally speaking, people's opinion of unions at the time was very low. Unions were kind of rabble organizations that challenged labor and stopped people from getting low-priced goods. So unions were bad, to put it in a general sense. All three of these events show that the government is going to do everything it can to assure that money is going to continue to flow. So at Haymarket Square, it's not really a strike. There's a rally for the 8-hour workday, which was a common cry among the working classes of the day. 8-hour workday, ah! And a bomb goes off. Now, the Knights of Labor who had organized the rally are not really tied to that bomb, but in the public mindset, they are. 7 policemen are killed, and that contributes to the fact that people begin to see the Knights of Labor as anarchists, crazy people. And no matter how much work they try to do to disassociate themselves from that reputation, that's how people saw the Knights of Labor. At the Homestead Mill in July of 1892, a Carnegie Steel factory went on strike. The workers at the plant had been told that Carnegie would no longer negotiate with any members of the union. In other words, he was going to try and redo their contract by addressing them one by one, not by looking at the power of the union. If you're a worker, that means you're not going to get as good of a deal because you're only one person, not an entire union that has some strength and could walk out and strike. And that's exactly why Carnegie's trying to break the union. They take over the plant. Then Carnegie's man, Frick, that's his name, Henry Clay Frick, sends in this Pinkerton Guard barge to try and overtake the plant. This would be a good movie, man. It's fantastic, like Brad Pitt in a leading role, just squinting a lot, going, oh, that'd be fantastic. And then, after the guards have failed to overtake it, Henry Clay Frick gets on the phone and calls the governor of Pennsylvania and says, make this right. And the governor of Pennsylvania sends down 6,000 militia, and they sweep the strikers aside. Why? Because the government supports the owners and not the workers. Another case of the man keeping us down. Yeah. Okay, Pullman Town. Pullman was a town built around the railroad empire of George Pullman, the master of the sleeping car owner, or sleeping car for railroads, I beg your pardon. The workers there refused to work after Pullman, who controlled both their wages and their rents, had lowered their wages but not lowered their rents. And then he acted like the two weren't related. Okay. So what Pullman does there is he forces the people into a position where they're not going to make as much money, but they still have the same bills. They refused to handle the cars, and eventually President Grover Cleveland, citing the fact that the rails need to move so that the U.S. mail moves, Cleveland sends in the army in order to break up the strike. Again, dominant theme, U.S. government supporting the union, not supporting the workers, not supporting the owners. You got it. You were sitting there going, wait a second. That's right. Page what? Page 7. Let's go. What factors contributed to the massive growth of the urban areas in the late 19th century? Huge amounts of immigrants from South and Southeastern Europe. A growing demand for industrial workers. The ability of the city to expand, not just outward, but upward. Okay, all of those are huge figures. Mass transit allows me to get from somewhere where I can live to the factory itself. I don't have to live near it. Therefore, the city can be bigger. Skyscrapers, 10 stories high. Whoa! Not really skyscraper in the modern sense, but still, let's stack people in higher and higher. Electricity. It means, especially early on for commercial purposes, that we're going to be able to run the factory hour after hour after hour. We're going to need more workers and more shifts. We're going to be more productive. Tenements. Especially you have to know the term dumbbell tenement because they had those tenements that look like dumbbells. Remember we looked at the graphic on the big screen there. Dumbbell tenements where I'm going to house all these immigrants who have come to work. The City Beautiful movement is a reaction against all this industry. It's an attempt to say, man, shouldn't we have something pretty in the middle of this? Places like Central Park are a tribute to the fact that amid the urban jungle, we need a little placid opportunity for people to breathe. The ghettos. Immigrants lived in ghettos. They lived in urban neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods had distinct lines. You didn't come to America as, let's say, a Russian Jew and suddenly go live in the Italian ghetto. No, you went and found the ghetto where you found your culture and your traditions. We talked about ward politics, or machine politics, and the best example of that is Boss Tweed in New York City. Tweed ran a machine where Irish immigrants would vote for politicians who would then give our corrupt businesses contracts and big public works jobs, and then all of the money that the businesses got paid by the taxpayer to do those jobs would not just pay for the job itself, but would then pay for bribes and kickbacks all the way around the system. It's a fantastic pool of corruption. It happens in a number of American cities. Boss Tweed's just the best example. Tweed's eventually busted by Thomas Nast, an American cartoonist, one of those great examples where the pen is mightier than the sword, or the wallet for that matter. Last page, major industries of the West, cattle, mining, railroad, food, lumber. How did the U.S. attempt to settle the Plains Indians? They went to war with them. They tried to corral them into the Dakotas in order to put them on reservations, and over the course of the 1870s and 80s conducted a massive war against them. Not our finest moment, ladies and gentlemen, as America. What's a homesteader? A homesteader is someone who takes advantage of the 1862 Homestead Act, and they move out west on a 160-acre parcel of land, hoping to last 5 years. If you last 5 years, the land is yours. What are some of the problems? Horrible conditions out there, bad climate, bad soil, Native American attack, people stealing your land claims. It's not the healthiest thing. Early on, an organization called the Grange is formed. The Grange's goal is to protect people, initially just in a social sense, give people a chance to hang out with each other so that they can talk and commiserate over common problems. Eventually, it's going to turn into a political action organization, and we're going to see its fullest expression in the 1896 election with the Populist Party candidate of William Jennings Bryan. Yeah. Okay? Chinese Exclusion Act. California had a huge amount of Chinese immigrants, and in 1882, the United States banned immigration by Chinese people into the country. The John Muir and Sierra Club point at the end. California is one of the early battlegrounds of the issue of what's more important, industry or the environment. How can the two coexist? California has so much natural beauty. For instance, Bakersfield. Go up to the bluffs up by Garces Memorial and look out over those oil things. Whew! Hard to behold the beauty. And look around. There's a lot of beautiful sights out there. But John Muir and the Sierra Club, on a serious note, are looking to make sure that real national treasures like Sierra and Yosemite are not trashed by industry. They work tirelessly to protect America's natural landmarks, not just in California, but outside of the state. But California is the best early example of that battle. Hope you're having a great day, folks. This is the last one of these for the semester. It's been a treat. Take care. Happy holidays.